If any of the recent leaks are anything to go by, we might be in for something curious, but also rather concerning. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now, if you have been aware of what's been going on lately, you might have seen Geekdom's video about a certain little acquisition on Shueisha's part. You can check out the video of his for the full details, but in short, a web domain has been acquired which reads, without the dashes, Dragon Ball Official. Official for what exactly? Well, Shueisha already has a similarly composed news website, Dragon-Ball-News, with all the dashes in the world actually, but this could be one of three things I think. Either a page for a new property which is as of yet untitled, maybe a movie, a brand new website for an official game perhaps, or maybe something similar to news, or a placeholder. I can understand why it might be a placeholder for something else, but still, it got Haven't I thinking a little bit about this. What could be next for the property, for the IP? Might we not be getting a simple anime version of the Morrow Saga after all, and maybe something else entirely? I mean, yeah, sure, the Morrow Saga has been a bit of a bumpy ride, especially in recent months. I mean, for sure, it was pretty enjoyable at the start of the saga, and for the middle part, but it became rather mixed later on towards the end, as we started to stick around on Earth for too long. Needless to say, it certainly dragged on. As it is nearing its conclusion though, at the time of writing the script, we don't know if we are going to be massively disappointed, or just a little bit miffed with the conclusion. Might it be able to pull out what the fans want and have Vegeta get the win finally, or at least help out in some degree? It's still a mystery as of now. We'll find out very soon. We also don't know what the future holds for Dragon Ball itself, but seeing a lot of problems that Super has, we can't help but wonder, has the series done enough to continue? Or are Toei seriously done with the mainline content, and are they content with side stuff for the rest of eternity? Are we doomed as a fandom to witness Super Dragon Ball heroes until the end of time? Now you may think that we as a fandom cannot simply make our minds up about what we want. That's how Toei makes us feel. When we get something new, we ask for something familiar, and shun the new, with little chance for it to get bedded in and endeared to. And when we get something familiar, we call it repetitive. Samey, ask for something new. But the problem is that new stuff in both GT and Super can often be really surface level, and returning to a more classic story beat becomes just nostalgia bait, repetition, nothing really special. We then lament the company for not trying anything new, for resorting to the past instances for a quick buck. It's a really tricky situation to be in, and I do feel sorry for Toei. Only a little bit though. And yes, we ourselves on this channel are also guilty of this. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes we ask ourselves if solving some of the problems that the series has is even possible in its current state. So, let's go back to that whole thing about the domain name from the start of this discussion. One interpretation you can have for this new address is that it might have something to do not with Super, or with Z, or even with GT, but with the OG. Let's have a thought experiment here, and use something that many fans of other franchises dread, utterly fear, because it's pretty risky. And while it can give some really good outcomes if done right, and especially if you get new tidbits correcting some stuff, you know, it's something fascinating, curious, a chance to repair some things that didn't work, but when it fails badly. I can hear you out there, Thomas and Friend fans. I mean, I'm not even an avid fan, I haven't watched Thomas for years, but I look at this reboot just from what I've seen on social media and it just looks wrong. Truth be told, in this day and age where the main characters are challenging the likes of the deities that make up the universe they are living in, if we want to see humans do stuff again, and with gusto, not just being sideshows, give the likes of Goku a run for their money, power levels not rising to absurd levels like in the hundreds of billions like we've seen before, and even retain or enhance some more mystical adventure aspects of the original story, we might actually have to reboot the whole thing. Start from scratch. Redo the original Dragon Ball series. That's what we think this domain might have something to do with. An official website for a complete redo of Dragon Ball. From the beginning. Like 1984 didn't happen. I know, it's a bold move. We kind of touched upon this topic in our script about possible Dragon Ball live action treatments, but there, We never talked about a fresh new take on an animated series of the first iteration. And yes, some of you may argue that Super is a reboot of sorts, as it sort of replaces the GT continuity, but we would also like to argue that it still holds some leftover ballast from Z and the original Dragon Ball. It is grounded in that effect. Let's state what we don't want to do with this idea, nor do we wish to encourage amongst you, or if anyone from Toei or Shueisha are watching. Since this treatment is being made by two European guys, it is going to be a westernization of sorts. But that being said, we don't want to westernize it too much, as is often done in localization of Japanese property, especially back in the day. No Geeko or similar weird stuff like that. We are not Hollywood executives. We care. We wish to preserve what made Dragon Ball great, and as such make it something that people from all regions can find meaning in. But most importantly, remind people that Dragon Ball is from the Far East first and foremost. The Dragon world is still that charmingly weird multicultural mishmash with more than just Japanese influences in there. Okay, so let's get started from the beginning. The fan service and raunchy stuff from that series, gone. Without question. Now, I don't want that. We do not want that to happen, as it's such a major part of the tone of that original series. It's an edgy action comedy, with a little bit of ecchi on the side. But we have to remind ourselves again of where Dragon Ball is broadcast nowadays. On a Sunday morning, against One Piece. But okay, let's get away from that and let's just get to the actual story. During those first arcs, the original Dragon Ball would still very much be about zany travels and adventures. We would then also introduce the space part of the overall tone from the very beginning. As the property itself has been with us for some time, we wouldn't want to insult anyone's intelligence by pretending that Goku is not an alien. Come on, we already know. Too many times we see prequels completely blank out huge plot points which are common knowledge, just to try and seem in keeping with the original tone. I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. We don't want to fool around with you. Quite the opposite, actually. We think we would open the series with a treatment similar to what we saw in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, but maybe give some more insight into characters like Vegeta, stuff like Raditz, even a little bit of Nappa, maybe even explore the early relationship between Goku and Grandpa Gohan, after he landed on Earth, because all we've seen of that was some stills, and even that was during flashbacks in Z. As the original has shown us how the journey itself started, we might start a little bit earlier in that new take and set the groundwork for later. Since the start of Dragon Ball is so well known, let's just add some enhanced backstory to provide something wholly different. Maybe introduce characters like Roshi earlier and provide more context with his friendship with Grandpa Gohan, and maybe even some of his time with Master Mutaito. Make him more of a mischievous ladies' man, instead of something that today is pretty dated and not really acceptable. As for Bulmas and Goku's characters, we would keep them quite close to what they were originally, but maybe perhaps toughen them up a little bit. Make them a little bit more resolute, determined. No, wait, wait. We're not talking about making them go to the point of being edgy and gritty. This isn't the early 2000s where you have those posters of the protag back-facing you, looking sideways, trying to be mysterious, and even Evolution tried that trope. But instead, give them that adventurer edge they gain later on. Sort of like that Tomb Raider movie a while back. You know, that one was pretty good. Same goes for Yamcha. This boy deserves something good, and while it's easy to turn him into a running gag, he needs some opportunities that would allow him to be badass. And before you say anything, we're not going to be making Bulma some sort of, preachy strong woman just for the sake of it, trying to be relevant or anything like that. She already is one when you think about it. She was quite ahead of her time, actually. We also need to remember, though, she naturally is a bit of a flirt. She does like boys, as well as being very smart. There's nothing wrong with that. It just has to be portrayed in a manner where she would benefit, and it's not solely for the sake of male jollies. Something for everyone. As for the pacing, it's going to be a shorter product because, again, we've been down this road before. We would cut down on the filler and give the series a Kai-like treatment, but unlike Kai, produce new content, not just recolor it and make it widescreen. No green tints here. Starting from the Emperor Pilaf saga as per usual, but making him a proper emperor instead of somebody who we are told is one, with more minions than just Shu and Mai to work with, whom we would de-age to being about Goku's age initially. Our favourite imp would be at first presented as something more nefarious, a mysterious, serious threat for the first couple of episodes to try and build up some tension, only to have the curtain pulled away from us revealed later as Pilaf being a more comical being like we're accustomed to, who at the end of his initial outing would lose his castle and all his servants that are not Shu and Mai. That way, we can then firmly establish that trio as a trio of convenience rather than just having them hang out together from the start. They're all they have left. There's that camaraderie that brings them closer together. Moreover, we really like the idea of each Dragon Ball having something more attached to them, instead of just simply being wish-granting orbs. You know, make them have some sort of unique identity. Each ball would have a Shadow Dragon-style guardian that lives inside of them. Now, of course, these dragons would be much weaker than their GT counterparts, and would be dwarfed by the likes of Shenron, who would be effectively their boss. Okay. Actually, you could really foreshadow that office trope that Yama and his Oni had from Z by having the smaller dragons in the Dragon Balls going like, oh yeah man, it's like really hard to work with that guy. Shenron, he's such a taskmaster. They can talk about their lives in that dimension that they share with Shenron. Give them some personality, instead of them just being mystical all of the time. They've got to have something to do when they're not being summoned. This is something that came from our Roundtable livestreams, and that would kind of allow us to introduce more Z-like elements earlier, without overwhelming the story. The Red Ribbon Army would pretty much retread what Path of Power did with them, but with the addition of some original characters that were omitted from that special of 1996, as well as giving Dr. Gero some cameos, since we know of his association with the Red Ribbon Army and his existence amongst the organisation. It would be weird not to acknowledge him in any way, since he was basically pivotal to their robotic rampage. Again, we like to toy with the continuity a little bit here, and since we are not making this up on the fly as Toriyama did back in the day, we have some things to plan with, we can now plant some seeds earlier on to help tie this product back into Z, make the two more cohesive. Next, there is the King Piccolo saga, and we would still have him being imprisoned, just not in the rice cooker perhaps. We don't want to make the series too serious of course, but King Piccolo here was supposed to be the first really scary villain in this series, so we would rather actually have the whole package be consistent, having him sealed somewhere in an ancient magical bottle, with the main difference being that his prison would slowly weaken over time. This could allow him to interact with the outside world more and more, and thusly be strong enough to escape from his own prison, instead of Pilaf just letting him out one day. It would make him a de facto mastermind behind the two previous sagas. In a way, by giving allusions to both Piccolo and Kami earlier on in the story, we might allude to a game between the two of them on much higher levels, using our protagonists as pawns in their own battle. We would also want to give Krillin some more fighting time in the series against Tambourine, instead of him just being taken out in one blow. As a result, it would kind of change the circumstances of his demise. Instead of being a simple casualty, he went down fighting, and to even add more drama to the situation, Goku would only arrive in time to see Krillin pass away before his very eyes, not being able to help at all. Might that be crueler than just seeing Krillin already gone? Let me know down in the comments what you think about that. Also, we would like to make the fight against King Piccolo and his children more of a group effort instead of being mostly Goku with the assist from Yajirobe from that one time. Of course, Goku would take the final win for himself, but Yamcha and Ten Shinhan could surely be strong enough to help take down some more baddies, even if that would mean adding more evil Namekians, but I don't think that would really be a problem. There are plenty of musical instruments out there to name Namekians after them. Well, okay, they're mutants, but still, plenty of instruments. Then for the Piccolo Jr. saga, well, this is the one that we would expand the most. Show some more of Goku's training under Kami, give Chi-Chi some more screen time prior to the tournament, and showing her train as well. Maybe showing her mentor who gave her that first push to be powerful. Maybe make that mentor be the Ox King. Explain why he has a power level of 900 apparently. Justify it. And yeah, he did have a power level of 900 in the time of Dragon Ball. No joke. Also for Chi-Chi, we can maybe make a character more quirky and less angry. In the meantime, we may even show what Vegeta, Nappa and Raditz have been up to in space during this arc, to remind the viewers about their existence and where they stand in relation to the Earthlings. We could even show Piccolo Jr.'s growing pains and build up a sympathetic nature that would contrast with his mission. And before we get to the Saiyan Saga after Junior's defeat, we can utilise Garlic Jr.'s storyline, the Dead Zone one, at least, and bring that movie into the main lore. Yes, if we're rebooting the story here, we may as well utilise some of the older movie villains here, properly. And the first Z movie makes a very good job of furthering the rivalry between Goku and Piccolo, whilst showing they can be really effective when they work together. Really plant that seed. Make it so that we as the viewers are sure that Garlic is not coming back. Now before we would get to the Z portion of the story, we would also give Raditz some solo adventures on his own, as he makes his way to Earth. You know, make the viewers care for this guy more, give him more of a morally grey angle, instead of just being a simple villain. Really enhance the idea he is a dog's body to Vegeta and Nappa, make us feel sorry for him. We feel that would make him a more interesting character. Another thing we may explore would be Bulmas and Yamcha's breakup. Instead of just going for the whole tired, oh, he cheated on me trope, well, we would make it that simply, you know, it didn't work out between them, as Bulma had grown up and got over her boy-mad phase. In the end, the two of them would still be good friends. Make it more civil, because come on, it doesn't make sense. Yamcha loved Bulma. He wanted to have a family, be a good husband and lover. Why would he just cheat like that? It just... ugh. Finally, we would come into the Saiyan Saga, the last thing we're going to discuss today. We would have Raditz survive. And no, not exactly what we did in the What If Raditz Turned Good situation, with him just settling down on Earth. But rather we would keep him around as more of a recurring character. Initially, he would have to team up with Piccolo and Gohan against Vegeta and Nappa. And then after that, we shall see. So that's the initial treatment of the series that we propose. Of course, there is much more to discuss here, but we don't want to overwhelm you all with going through 3 or maybe even 4 series in one video. We'd like to ask you, do you like this idea? Do you want to see more? Would you like to see it adapted into a proper what if? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later.